Hey there, how you doing today? Little high, little low. What's the first thing you think of when I say school supplies? Is it school supplies? That was years ago, man. Maybe a slate and a piece of chalk? Was it that long ago? Probably not. Maybe that's reaching too far back. How about a pencil, though? Pencils, even though most of us don't use pencils that often anymore, a lot of school ads still put the pencil. I guess the calculator is maybe taking over from the pencil, but pencil used to be the symbol of school supplies, almost synonymous. My absolutely favorite commercial is of the dad who's all excited and his two kids that are trudging along behind him, and the music in the background is "It's the most wonderful time of the year," and he's almost rubbing it in, right? Like so, he's so happy and he's putting all the school supplies in there, and the kids are like, "Okay, Dad, whatever." Yeah, I got a kick out of that because I can totally relate. Because I worked from home part of the time then, and I love my kids, but you know what? Some peace and quiet when you're trying to get some work done is really welcome. So it's pretty good to have them back in school, and it also gives you an excuse to send them to bed because it's like it's late for a school night. Go to bed now, so I can have a little alone time here. But not anymore. Currently, a lot of parents are climbing the walls because you all know, we're not going to get into that, but it reminds me of a photo that I saw early on last year when kids were staying home and somebody wrote on the side of their van or their window or something that to a teacher, they're in the parking lot or something like that. You lied. My kid is not a joy to have in the classroom. Teachers don't let you write anything in ink until you're good enough to get it right the first time, because we all need pencils and erasers when we're first starting out because we all make mistakes. We rarely get it right. I never get it right the first time. That's why we have text editors and stuff now. I love the modern way of writing because even as I was writing this sentence, I backspaced several times and made a lot of spelling corrections and type corrections and rephrased my thought. My best mark when I was in English class, my ever best mark on an essay was when we joined classes, the computer class. We were allowed to take time in computer class to write our essay. Best mark I ever got because I'm just too lazy to. If I see that a sentence isn't in the right place, it's like, well, it's too late now, and teachers don't want you crossing stuff out, right? There's no way I'm going to rewrite this whole thing by hand. Forget that. And whiteout takes too long to dry, so it's just going to have to do. But with a computer, it's copy, paste, delete, backspace, insert here, insert there. I love it. If I had a computer back then, Mrs. Mycroft would have loved me even more than she already did. And I wouldn't have missed being valedictorian by a percentage point. Probably. I mean, who knows? God only knows. But the lesson today isn't about pencils, actually. It's about what you can use a pencil for, and specifically to take a note. But it could have been. It could have been about pencils because as the intro was about pencils, I was thinking, there's one thing that keeps coming to my mind when we're talking about pencils, and it's the idea that God has a record of your life. God has a notebook on your life, but there's only a very few lines there that are recorded in ink. The rest is all recorded in pencil, and that's all the rotten stuff. That's all the stuff from our flesh that we've done, all the things, either good or bad, that we think, but it comes from our human abilities. That's all written in pencil. And especially when you think of all this stuff about ourselves that we tend to wish we could forget or stop remembering or regret or wish I hadn't done that, that's all written in pencil on your permanent record with God. And God's just waiting for you to say, or God's just waiting to say to you, I'd be happy to erase that for you. I could take care of that for you. Right up until your last breath, you have the opportunity to have all that stuff erased. If we ask Jesus to help us, save us, forgive us, God takes an eraser to all of that stuff. Pages and pages of erased records. All the stuff that's left behind is written in ink. And the most significant thing that's written in ink is the entry that says, on this day, this person accepted my son Jesus as their Lord and Savior, and they became my child. And then anything you do for God is written in ink there, and you get a reward for it when it's all said and done. So how about it? When you look back at your life, is the ledger full of stuff that you wished wasn't there? Jesus will clean it all up for you. I'm not trying to make light of it, but the cross is the eraser. The cross erases all the stuff we regret. And it's not the kind of eraser that we used to use, whereas like just a gray smudge everywhere, a paper full, if you if you did a particularly bad job on your math, then you just have a page full of gray smudges. I'm not talking about that. It's like you can't even tell anything was ever written there. It's gone. All the sin, all the stuff that we regret, all the bad, completely gone, just white. And God leaves behind only what's pleasing to him. So one thing I'd like to say is don't live with regret. All the stuff that you've done that's no good, it can be completely erased, eradicated. And all that will be left behind is what Jesus has done for you. And that's written in permanent ink, never going to be erased. Ask Jesus to forgive you and save you. Pencils are also great for taking notes. But when it comes to note taking, there's another tool that's even more critical than your pencil. And it's not in your desk or your book bag. It's on the side of your head. Your ears, obviously. The notes you take are going to be only as good as your listening skills. And listening is definitely a skill because sometimes you have to hear what the person isn't saying. Reading between the lines, that's the English idiom. And I think we all acknowledge that generally we're probably bad listeners. Generally, probably we are. In fact, we might be devolving in this area. I'm not going to rant on handheld devices, but in my lifetime, we've gone from, I'm bored, there's nothing interesting on TV, and I'm bored with my Atari 2600. I played these games to death. Let's go and play some tag or something, or football, or let's get the guys together and let's go do something with people. Let's interact and do some stuff. Again, I'm not going to rant on that, but it's just we've gone from that to there is so much on this little screen of mine that I don't even feel the need to communicate with the people I'm sitting in the same room with. And when people talk to us, it's not often that they have our undivided attention. In fact, it's a little unnerving to have someone give you their undivided attention. Both my daughter and I do this, but she a lot more than I think. Sometimes I talk to her and she's just looking at me with sort of a blank face. And I know her well enough to know that she's actually just listening. But it's sometimes a little freaky. It's a little intense, but that's just how she is. Most of us simply tune people out. We don't care. Or we get distracted, we're thinking about something else, or we're just listening with one ear, the other ear is listening to something else, and we just don't give the people the attention they need. Sometimes we're only listening so that we can get a chance to speak. We're just waiting for a pause from them so we can say what we think. We don't actually really care what they're saying. And which is why I suppose Twitter and stuff is so great these days. Just say what I want, ignore everybody else. I don't have to wait for my turn. I don't have to even listen to what they have to say. I just can fire off whatever I think about that. And maybe I can get into a fight if they say something, and then we can have this back and forth with strangers. I don't know. I'm not on that. And I don't really care. I just know that there's no filter. There's no P's and Q's, as they used to say on social media for the most part. Maybe we're just not developing our listening skills anymore. The Big Bang Theory was a popular show for a number of years. There's an episode where Raj finds a girlfriend, and it's kind of amusing because if you remember it, it's like it's Siri. And my Siri, I can't show you because my Siri's right there and recording this talk, but my Siri is Australian. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I think her voice is kind of cute. But you know how it goes. Siri listens and then helps you find information or do small tasks without you having to literally, you don't have to lift a finger because she'll do it for you. Or there's male voices. I'm sure they worked very hard on making sure Siri was a good listener and could understand what you're saying. Software's still a ways off. Sometimes you get ridiculous answers and, she'll, this is what I use Siri for mostly, is just to do my shopping list. We know it's just well-written code and voice recognition, but maybe there's a lesson there. So here's my Siri.
Hey Siri, add milk to my shopping list. Okay, added to your shopping list.
See, I ask, add some milk to my shopping list. And she says, okay, added it to your shopping list. Never says, what? Why should I? Or something like that. Never ignores you. It's like, hey, Siri, beep, beep. And then nothing. She's listening. What would you like? How can I? That's why Raj fell in love with her, because he can't talk to girls, apparently. And he found one he could. And she listens. And despite her faults, Siri is a way better listener than most of us, because we don't listen that well. We miss important ideas. We hurt people's feelings, make someone feel less than important. We jump to wrong conclusions. I think that's the major one. We jump to wrong conclusions because we don't hear people out. Siri doesn't tune people out, doesn't get distracted, not merely waiting for you to finish flapping your gums so she can say something. You know what? Actually, I'd get a kick out of that if Siri talked back to me. She listens, then she responds. And God might like it if we could be more like that. Here's a few words from Brother James. James 1:19. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. James 3. Indeed, we all make many mistakes, for if we could control our tongues, we would be perfect, and we could also control ourselves in every other way. People can tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and fish, but no one can tame the tongue. It's a restless evil full of deadly poison. Sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who've been made in the image of God. And so blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this isn't right. James says, be quick to listen. So easy to hear something or read something and then get up in arms about it, all indignant and so sure you know what the right answer is. I had an experience of kind of like this a few weeks ago, because there's a bill and bylaws being discussed that would probably have a negative impact on my life. Potentially. If currently, no, but it's sort of opening the door to something that could. And it affects me and people in the same profession as me almost exclusively. A bill targeted at limiting what I'm allowed to do as a pastor in Canada. And that really gave me a lot of new emotions. I never felt that kind of thing in Canada before. And my initial feelings were of betrayal, anger, and I obsessed about it for a few days, to be honest. One day I had trouble kind of falling asleep because I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not because of necessarily mad, but just think about it and all the answers that I would have and what I would say and so on and so forth. But that evening I was praying, and the Bible verses that kept coming to my mind were the ones where Jesus says, love your enemies, pray for those who come at you, bless them, don't curse them. And I realized that I got a wrong attitude here. I should listen to what they have to say and then say what I think in a gentle way and see if we can come to an understanding. And if not, which, may be the case, then just realize, we don't agree on this issue, but I've done what I can in the way that God wants me to, and the rest is in his hands. I don't have to get in an argument about this. And then I felt a lot of peace. And ever since then, I felt peaceful about it. I haven't had any issues anymore. Be quick to listen, slow to get angry. And if you want others to listen to you, you have to be a good listener in turn. There's probably some things in the world that could be set right if everyone just really listened to each other and then put some thought into the other party's feelings and struggles and then answered in a respectful way. And that's pie in the sky. We're never going to get there because we're all basically selfish and self-centered. But Christians should try at the very least. It's not about being right all the time. It's also about hearing other people out, asking God for wisdom, love, to be able to be a good neighbor, help people in need. People who are having hard times, they don't need lectures. They need listeners. And people, because if you think, well, I'm trying to save you. I mean, only God can do that anyways, but I'm trying to help you. Only God can do that anyways. Like, what help are we actually? But the motivation is, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to convince you that the way you're going is dangerous. But if we come at it with anger or, I'm saying, like, it's got to be gentleness, love, peace, patience, self-control, all those good fruits of the Spirit, kindness, goodness. Got to come at it that way and see they need to know you care. And then they might care to listen. I care and I'm trying to understand you. Maybe we can find some common ground. Maybe we could build from there. Maybe we just agree we disagree, but we can get along. It would be easier if we could take notes when we're talking about listening. But let's face it, if you had a notepad, you're writing down, your friends wouldn't tell you too much anymore. And if you do that to strangers, they're really going to be suspicious. Think you're trying to get dirt on them is how we all feel these days, right? Like everything's being recorded. All your emails, your things you posted, it's all recorded. And 10, 20 years later, somebody might dig that up and use it against you. So we don't want anybody recording or whatever, even though we know it already is happening. So obviously we're not going to be taking notes, but if you take the time to listen, really, really listen, be quick to listen, be slow to get angry, maybe you'll start to hear a person's heart, and maybe you can read between the lines, and maybe you'll start to know how I can pray for that individual. And not only that, but when you listen and people see that you care and you're listening without getting angry, they might open up a bit more, and they might be more likely to listen to you. And you might get a chance, best case scenario, to give a word of testimony about what Jesus has done for you. This is how Jesus helped me, and this is what I believe. So that's the thought for today. Ask God to help you become a good listener with friends, family, strangers, even those who are making your life a little bit difficult. Don't respond without hearing what's being said. Ask God for wisdom to hear their heart so that we can be friendly in a world where far too often people comment without any thought or filter at all. And here's one more bit of wisdom from Proverbs 13:3. Those who control their tongue will have a long life. Opening your mouth can ruin everything. God bless you. Have a great day.